December 28, 1944, north of Bastogne, Belgium. The hedge of fir trees along the ridge is heavy with ice, each needle glittering a hard, colorless light in the hour before dawn. Hauptmann Otto Weiss, 34 years old, commander of a mixed panzer company scraped together from survivors of Panzer Lehr and stray panthers, rests his elbows on the lip of a frozen slit trench and steadies his Zeiss field glasses. Breath curls white from his scarf and disappears into the damp reek of cordite and diesel that never leaves this forest. Somewhere behind him, a Panther Osweiss G coughs, sputters, and gives up, its mechanic swearing into his gloves as the starter clacks like teeth in winter. Down in the shallow valley, the American road is alive. It moves like a river, no, like a conveyor. Boxy silhouettes under blackout lamps. A procession of trucks, wreckers, lowboys, and, unbelievably, brand new tanks that still wear the gray sheen of cosmoline in streaks along their glacis plates. Weiss can smell them even from here when the wind shifts, that sickly sweet factory preservative baked by the engines into a ghost of vanilla and solvent. You wouldn't notice it in summer. In this cold it carries. You are there with him, cheek numb against the rim of frozen earth, hearing the soft rattle of his binoculars as they settle into the bridge of his nose. Through the lenses, the line resolves M4s, Shermans, some with the blunt muzzle of the 75, others with the longer, keener 76 that his men have learned to respect. Several ride on wide duckbill track extenders. Two sit higher on a new, almost graceful bogie, HVSS, the Americans call it, their tracks spreading weight on the snow like a cat's paw. Their turret numbers are chalked with depot hands, the figures big and careless, 21, 22, 24. On one mantlet, a faint stenciling shows through the solvent smear, as if the tank rolled straight from a warehouse to the front. They were not here yesterday, says Oberleutnant Kramer at his shoulder. He speaks softly as if volume could call enemy attention. They cannot be. Weiss lowers the glass, flexes his frozen fingers, and lifts them again. His eye finds the same column. Yesterday, his Panthers and a pair of assault guns ambushed a company of Shermans along that very road. The first two American tanks burned so hot their snowcaps collapsed into black mud. The third backed into a ditch and threw its track trying to turn. A fourth, God knows where it came from, charged forward, gun blazing, and had its turret whipped sideways by an 8.8 before the crew was halfway out of the hatches. By nightfall, 6 wrecks flamed like torches, and even the Americans' bulldozers could not clear all of them. But the road below is clear. And full. And the tanks, new tanks, roll past where the wrecks had been, a distant whistle, and shells stitch the far tree line. The ground around the Panther shakes as if some subterranean animal has turned in its sleep. Men duck, Weiss does not. He is listening to the road. He hears the peculiar tempo of the American traffic, the rhythmic growl of standardized engines, the crisp clank of new track on frozen macadam, the stop-start choreography of drivers trained not only to fight, but to flow. It is a sound you learn. It is the sound of weight that does not end. Sir? Kramer prompts. He is younger, 26, a good gunner who clawed his way to a platoon after too many dead officers. He still believes the map can be made to obey. Look at their turrets, Weiss says. See the chalk? Those are not replacements from the rear. Those are replacements from somewhere else. From where? Kramer asks, incredulous. They have been fighting us for a week in this sector. The roads are choked, the bridges. From where? Weiss repeats flatly and moves the glass to the tail of the convoy. 4 trucks carry wooden crates painted with numbers that make him wince. Crates of road wheels. Crates of transmission housings shaped like bell mouths. Crates of final drives. Even their spares move in phalanx. Behind him, Feldwebel Rapp appears, stiff-shouldered, grease on his cheek like a bruise. The Panther's starter is finished, Rapp says. We can try to hand crank if we find 6 men who haven't frozen, but the oil... He spreads gloved hands as if to show a flaw in the very air. Weiss nods without turning. He thinks of the last 2 weeks, of panzer crews siphoning fuel with rubber hoses and raw throats, of tracks repaired from 3 ruined tanks to make a 4th that might move, of carbines traded for clutch plates, of orders that arrive on time and parts that do not arrive at all. He thinks, too, of the prisoner yesterday, a round-faced American sergeant from a supply battalion, captured when his wrecker strayed into the wrong wood. The man had grinned through chattering teeth. "We're just getting started," he'd said in survivable German. You boys haven't seen our real parade. Weiss had laughed then, a dry military laugh reserved for the theater of prisoners. He is not laughing now. A drone swells overhead. P-47s? No too deep. B-26 Moritors, twin engines vibrating the cold into the bones. Bombers, hunting bridges, rail lines, anything that looks like a bottleneck. It will not matter, Weiss realizes. Where the Americans lack a bridge, they will build one. Where they lack a road, they will lay matting over a field and call it a road by afternoon. Where 6 tanks are smashed on Monday, 6 more will be there by Friday, paint still tacky at the weld seams. Sir, Kramer says again, urgent now. We should withdraw before daylight. The Panthers can still move if, Weiss echoes. He leaves the glass on the trench edge and climbs up, boots gnawing at snow. He looks one last time at the American column, not as a commander measuring targets, but as a factory foreman watching a line that will not stop. In the dim, the leading Sherman's bow gun flashes once, just a sighting shot at a hedge suspected of hiding a Panzerfaust team, and the round snaps overhead, cracking the air open like ice. The infantry in white smocks keep pace, hunched but relentless, each man a cog that fits. Weiss rubs the bridge of his nose with a knuckle, clearing the ache left by the binoculars. Pull the company back 2 kilometers, he says to Kramer. No road, through the trees. Rapp, strip that Panther for what we can carry in 10 minutes. Leave the rest. He glances at the valley and cannot help himself. They will be here by midday in strength. How many? Kramer asks. Enough, Weiss answers. Always enough. January 3rd, 1945. Detroit, Michigan. Half a world away from the Ardennes, snow drifts against the vast brick walls of the Chrysler tank arsenal. Inside it is summer. The heat of thousands of men and machines hums under vaulted steel rafters. Sparks from acetylene torches bloom in the air like fiery petals, raining across assembly lines that stretch beyond sight. To the rhythm of clanging steel and air hammers, the M4 Sherman is born, again and again and again. Every 45 minutes, another tank rolls off the line. Its paint is still damp, its serial number freshly stamped. Young men, many too young to fight overseas, tighten bolts, rivet plates, weld seams, and swing engine blocks into place with cranes that glide on rails like gods of iron. Women in blue overalls guide belts, pack bearings, and test starters. A foreman's voice cuts through the din. Move it down the line! Next hull coming through! If you stood in the catwalk above, you could feel the floor trembling under the movement of endless work, America's second front. Each day, freight trains leave Detroit heavy with armored machines bound for the coast, their cargo tags reading simply, Europe, urgent. By the time the sun rises over the English Channel, those tanks will already be on ships, crossing toward Antwerp, where German officers like Weiss will see them rumbling into battle. In Washington, an intelligence summary lands on a mahogany desk. The OSS report quotes a captured German major. We destroyed 10 American tanks and they send 20. They lose more men, more trucks, more guns, yet the next week there are more than before. How can one fight such a nation? The analyst underlines the words, how can one fight? That phrase will appear in 5 more intercepted letters from German units that month. Back in Belgium, Weiss's company reaches a ruined village near Houffalize. The church is shattered, its bell twisted on the ground like melted tin. The Panther that could still run crouches beside the nave, barrel pointed east. His men are exhausted. 2 have frostbite bad enough that their fingers stick to their rifle bolts. When the supply truck finally arrives from Corps HQ, it carries crates marked Panzerfausts. No fuel, no engine oil, no tracks. Kramer rips one crate open and laughs bitterly. They send us more weapons for infantry, he says, tossing a launcher aside. As if we have enough men left to use them. Weiss says nothing. He walks beyond the churchyard, past the graves until he can see the horizon. There, faint but constant, lies a smear of gray smoke. He knows what it means. A road, alive with engines moving west to east. The Americans again. In his mind, Weiss compares what he knows to what he sees. Germany's entire industry, what remains of it, produces perhaps 200 tanks a month now, most of them interrupted by bombing raids, shortages, or sabotage. America? He cannot even guess the number. He only knows that when he fought near Caen last summer, the Americans fielded one kind of Sherman. Now he has seen 3, new turrets, new guns, thicker armor. And all within months. How? He murmurs aloud. Does an army replace itself while fighting? No one answers. Only the wind in the rafters of the ruined church, whistling like a memory of machinery. Across the ocean, at the River Rouge plant, a reporter interviews an engineer named Harold Jenkins. Jenkins wipes his hands on a rag black with graphite and grins for the camera. "They say the Germans are good at engineering," he shouts over the thunder of presses. "Sure they are. But they build art, we build quantity. We build forever." Behind him, a sign hangs over the exit. Every hour counts. Every bolt wins a battle. By January's end, the Ardennes offensive collapses. German fuel trucks sit empty in the woods. The roads are littered with burned half-tracks and abandoned artillery. And on those same roads, new American Shermans grind east, their tracks passing over the frozen wrecks of their predecessors. When one of Weiss's scouts returns from a captured depot, he carries an American leaflet, printed in German. "You cannot stop what never stops." Weiss reads it twice. He folds it into his pocket and stares at the snow. Somewhere deep inside, something cold and certain settles. This war, he thinks, is no longer between soldiers. It is between factories, and his factory died long ago. He looks up. The horizon flashes again, the reflection of another endless convoy. February 10th, 1945. Near the town of Prüm, Germany. Snow drifts like ash through the skeletal branches of the Eiffel forest. Weiss and what remains of his company, 2 Panthers, a half-track, and 23 men, have been ordered to hold a crossroads long enough for infantry to withdraw east. The Americans are coming again. He can hear them before he sees them, the far-off thunder of diesel engines rolling like distant surf. Weiss kneels beside his map, spreading it on the hood of the Panther. The creases have worn thin from months of folding and refolding, rivers and roads smudged to ghosts. The inked front lines no longer mean anything. The war is moving too fast for ink. 2 tanks, Kramer says beside him, his voice hoarse from cold and exhaustion. 2 against that. He gestures toward the west. Through the gray veil of snow, the earth trembles. The sound grows heavier. Engines, dozens of them. It is not a column. It is a tide. Weiss studies the road. "We will fire until they see us," he says quietly, then fall back. Kramer snorts, bitter. "If we can still move." The Panther's driver, a boy barely 20, overhears and mutters a prayer under his breath. He has been at the front only 2 weeks, the last replacement from what Berlin still dares to call the training reserve. Weiss lights a cigarette. The flame shivers in the wind, a fragile golden tremor in the iron-gray morning. He draws in smoke, eyes fixed westward. Soon the shapes emerge. M4 Shermans, 15 at least, their hulls smeared with frozen mud, turrets turning in perfect unison. Infantry follow behind them, disciplined and steady. Trucks trail them, always trucks, packed with spare parts, fuel drums, crates of rations. Even as the battle approaches, their supply never sleeps. Weiss can see numbers chalked in white on the tank's turrets. New arrivals, replacements, reinforcements. He thinks again of Detroit, though he has never seen it. He imagines an ocean of smoke and steel, where men and women build machines faster than he can destroy them. The absurdity of it nearly makes him laugh. He had once believed in the precision of the German war machine, the myth of invincibility. But here, in the slush of a dying empire, precision means nothing. It is quantity that rules the battlefield now, quantity that devours precision whole. The first shells hit. American artillery, quick, efficient, already zeroed in. The ground leaps. Weiss ducks behind the Panther as snow and mud shower down. "Fire!" he shouts. The 75mm gun roars, a single golden lance cutting the mist. The leading Sherman jolts as its track shears away, tumbling sideways into the ditch. For a moment, Weiss feels a flicker of the old pride. Then 5 Shermans halt, rotate their turrets, and answer as one. The hillside erupts in light. When the smoke clears, one of the Panthers is gone, just gone, replaced by a black crater steaming in the snow. Kramer drags himself from the wreckage, face gray, blood freezing on his sleeve. "It doesn't matter," he gasps. "You kill one and 10 more come." Weiss doesn't reply. He stares as another convoy approaches, fuel trucks, recovery vehicles, medics, fresh infantry. The American army seems to grow from the very earth. There is no end, only movement. The realization hits him with the weight of inevitability. This war cannot be won with courage or cleverness. It can only be lost slowly, under the grinding gears of a nation that builds faster than the world can destroy. "Fall back," he orders. The last Panther reverses, treads groaning, smoke trailing from its exhaust. Weiss stays behind for a final moment, watching the Americans crest the ridge, their flags barely visible in the snow. He feels no hatred, only awe and a hollow kind of relief. For years, his country had spoken of destiny and superiority. But destiny, he now understands, belongs to the side that never runs out of steel. As night falls, he writes a note in his logbook by candlelight. "We fought an army. We lost to a factory." He closes the book and hands it to Kramer before boarding the half-track. Outside, the snow continues to fall, soft, endless, indifferent. March 1945. The Ruhr Valley. The last industrial heart of Germany is dying. Smoke rises from the shattered chimneys of Essen and Dortmund, curling like ghosts above the ruins of factories that once fed Hitler's war. Conveyor belts lie in twisted heaps of rusted metal. The clang of hammers has gone silent. The machines that once built the Panzerkampfwagen are now broken themselves, buried under rubble, suffocated by dust. Weiss's unit, what remains of it, is ordered to retreat across the Rhine. It is no longer an army, but a procession of survivors. Men push carts where trucks once drove, horses drag guns that once rode on diesel. Everything smells of decay, oil gone stale, uniforms never washed. Rations long turned sour. On the opposite bank, American pontoon bridges stretch across the river like a metallic centipede, sections floating into place one after another, assembled with the calm precision of men who have forgotten how to fear. Bulldozers work through the night, lamps blazing white through the fog. The same rhythm Weiss heard in the Ardennes now echoes here, relentless, mechanical, immortal. He and Kramer watch from a ridge, binoculars pressed to eyes gone hollow. The scene below is more than a crossing. It is a factory reborn in the field. Flatbed trucks arrive with prefabricated bridge segments. Cranes swing them into place. Engineers hammer pins and lay planks. And then, without pause, tanks begin to roll across before the last section even settles. Kramer lowers his binoculars. "They build faster than we can destroy," he murmurs. "It's like watching an organism reproduce." Weiss nods slowly. "No," he says, voice low. "Not an organism. A system." He remembers the American prisoner from December, the one who spoke of a parade. The man had not been boasting. He had been describing the truth, an endless procession, fed by logistics so vast and invisible that no single soldier could comprehend it. That night, Weiss walks through the ruins of a steel mill on the outskirts of Essen. Moonlight spills through holes in the roof, silvering the dust. A half-melted sign still hangs from a beam. "Arbeit macht frei durch Stahl. Work makes you free through steel." He runs his hand over the rusted machinery. It feels cold, lifeless. Once this place gave birth to tanks like his Panthers, gleaming beasts of engineering. But now the heart has stopped beating. Every German factory he passes tells the same story. Empty furnaces, hollow assembly lines, workers gone to the front or dead under rubble. In contrast, reports from the West keep pouring in. The Americans have landed more than 60,000 vehicles in a single month. British engineers rebuild bridges in 48 hours. Trains filled with gasoline, ammunition, and food flow endlessly toward the front. Each statistic feels like a nail driven deeper into a coffin. Weiss sits on the floor of the ruined plant, lighting the last cigarette he has. The wind moans through the hollow pipes, echoing like the sigh of the past. He speaks softly, to no one. "We thought war was decided by who fought hardest, but it's decided by who can afford to keep fighting." April 1945. The Rhine has been crossed. From Cologne to Kassel, the American tide rolls eastward, unstoppable. Villages surrender without a shot. Children wave white cloths from broken windows. The Luftwaffe no longer flies. Weiss's Panther, the last, throws a track near Fulda and cannot be repaired. He orders it abandoned. His men strip the radios, the MGs, the optics, and walk on foot. When an American patrol finally finds them days later, starving and half frozen, they raise their hands without hesitation. A young U.S. lieutenant, barely 20, with a patch that reads 3rd Armored, steps forward. His uniform is spotless, his helmet gleaming. "You guys from Panzerlehr?" he asks, almost with curiosity. Weiss nods. The lieutenant looks at their condition, at their empty eyes, and exhales. Hell, he mutters, you fought hard. Weiss studies the man's weapon, a new M1, polished and clean. The cloth on his belt bears the logo of a factory in Illinois. Even here in this nameless field, America's industry is present, stamped on every object. Weiss lowers his gaze. We didn't lose to soldiers, he says quietly. We lost to your factories, the lieutenant doesn't reply. He only gestures for his men to take the prisoners. As Weiss walks past the line of American tanks idling on the road, each engine humming steady, each hull freshly painted, he realizes he is witnessing something greater than victory. It is civilization itself, mechanized and inexhaustible. For the first time, he understands the future. And it does not belong to those who fight hardest. It belongs to those who can build without end. He does not look back as they march east. The convoy behind him rumbles on, engines blending into a single endless sound, the sound of the machine that never slept.